The Survival Horror Corner.
Back in familiar territory, we return to the Resident Evil series. Now, I'd mentioned Resident Evil Outbreak in my Resident Evil spin-off video, but I didn't say a whole lot about it. That's primarily because I didn't own it at the time, so I decided to finally pick it up. Plus, it's dirt cheap, so yeah. Now, the funny thing is, my original assessment of Outbreak was pretty spot on. It's full of potential, but I don't think the world was quite ready for it. Resident Evil Outbreak was released December 11, 2003 for the PS2. Initially, it was thought of before Resident Evil 2, crazy enough, but was later thrown in the trash, only to be brought back to life in 2002, simply titled Biohazard Online. Really take note of that second word in the title, online. This is supposed to be an online multiplayer game. Sadly, servers for the game were shut off back in 2007, a solid run nonetheless. Now granted, the game is fully functional without the online, but that's probably the biggest issue for me. That's not what it was designed around. Not really having the ability to play this online really makes it a lot less fun than it could have been. So let's dig right in. We get a pretty sweet character roster with each character having a perk. 5 levels in total, each with a massive amount of objectives and hidden items, loosely strung together by some story of getting rid of the virus inside you, hence the virus meter, which ultimately is a variable time limit. Starting with the basics, let's hit up those controls. Control in-game is pretty okay. D-pad has tank controls which are almost completely useless because there's a turn arc that is so massive, it pretty much forces you to use the joystick which has 2D controls. For the most part, it's not an issue in a full 3D world with a dynamic camera. A few times you'll get trapped running from angle to angle because the controls get locked up, but it's not prevalent enough to cause a ruckus. Combat is serviceable, but still good old-fashioned Resident Evil. So like previous Resident Evil games, item management is a very important aspect. Each character gets 4 slots, except Yoko, who gets 8, and the inventory is in real time. The problem begins to arise the second you try to do anything. Without some kind of quick access or hotkey, you're left to the clunky-ass inventory system. You can't move items on a whim, nor can you drop items either. Still not the worst, but don't worry, it gets better. With only 4 slots, you become reliant on your teammates to carry some of the load. This is where shit gets really fucked. Instead of doing something sane, like giving you full control over the bot's inventory, you're left to their AI, and the most ass-backwards system of exchanging items. I get it, it's how the game was designed, but when I'm dealing with non-people, yeah, it's not good. So let's say you want to switch items with a bot. You open up the menu, which will undoubtedly have to take a 4-second load time, then you navigate over to the item you want for them. It opens up another sub-menu where you request the item. Now you close out the menu, run over to the bot, press action, grab the item, and then you switch items. Sometimes you just want a bot to hold something. So you again open up those pesky menus, hit present, and you stand there and again are left to the AI not to just leave you hanging. Most of this could have been easily avoided if this was like Resident Evil 0 where I could just switch items all willy-nilly. I had full control of my partner's inventory. But here, you don't. You're left to the artificial intelligence of the bots to know what you need. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it works, but just barely enough to get through. Let's face it, Outbreak could have been one of the best spin-offs in the Resident Evil series, but just came out way too soon. I've seen plenty agree with me on various forums, and it's even compounded by the fact people have gone out of their way to do some crazy shit to get this working online. I really like a lot here. The core mechanics are good, the chapters are fun and well done, there's endless amounts of replayability, the ambition is here. Sadly, it's not enough to really pull through completely solely offline. If I had played this online, I think this could have been a real blast. Not mind-blowing, but fun. Offline though, the major issue stems solely from the bots. They're a bunch of retards. I can tell they really tried. Utilizing the right thumbstick exactly like in Haunting Grounds where up, down, left, right each had a general command. Holding L2 with the right thumbstick gives you the ability to call specific teammates. Dodge! 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 This sounds fine and all, but half the time they don't listen. Dodge! These are some of the sassiest bots I've ever seen. Sometimes they straight up say no. Here! No. What the fuck? Did you just say to me, you little bitch? Some bots just disappear for long periods at a time just to show up with the key item that you've been looking for. Sometimes they're too good to pick up weapons and defend themselves. You're left to the will of the AI, and that's a pretty big fucking gamble. Just like most games, they end up being more of a liability than an actual asset. Like I said, the game is completely playable with the bots. I made it through, but I can't help to feel most of the fun of this game was ripped from it. Obviously, this reference was bound to come up. Let's look at Left 4 Dead. While not very similar on a mechanical level, they do have the same concept: teamwork-based zombie survival on relatively small maps. Left 4 Dead can be played offline with the bots, and it can be fun. But most of the fun is from the online interactions. This is where I really think Outbreak got shafted. It came out way too early. You have to remember, online play, a thing we take for granted these days, was more of a luxury around those times. My poor ass growing up had dial-up for the longest time. On top of that, you had to buy an internet adapter to even play online for the PS2. I really feel age is what holds this game back. This is where I'll rarely say, this game needs a fucking remaster. Capcom, what are you, fucking retarded? Your remaster remake 0, 4 for the 37th time, 5 and 6? But you couldn't be fucked to remaster the game that actually needs it? Seriously, tweak the inventory, update the graphics a bit, and most importantly, bring back the fucking online. Out of all the games you've remastered, this should have been the one. It has a really sound foundation with some problems that detract from it, but with a little bit of polish and motivation, I think you could turn this into something real nice. It's not like Capcom isn't aiming for online in Resident Evil. Look at 5, it's a co-op only game. Look at 6, it's a co-op only game. With the Left 4 Dead infected game mode where people can play as the monsters. So why are they so hesitant to bring this back? They're sitting on a really promising premise. Shit, you could even make a new Outbreak instead. Outbreak File 3 for all I care. It captures a hefty amount of the feeling of a Resident Evil game while putting a multiplayer spin on it that's really interesting. Outbreak, as is, it's a pretty decent Resident Evil game. It's got quirks that really annoy me, but once you get past all that, get used to the game, it really offers up an experience not quite like the rest of the series. If you updated the game to run more smoothly, I think this game would be a must-own for Resident Evil fans. Shit, I can even say right now, it's still definitely worth playing if you are a fan. If they did remake this is something they might consider. Fix the UI. It's clunky, it's slow, it's awkward. Make arranging items a thing, streamline it more. The shit is real time. I don't have much of it to sift through all kinds of sub-menus. Add hotkeys, even if it's like 2 of them. Something just to make it a bit more, I don't know, not so clunky? Make the AI good. They don't have to carry me through the game, but at least make it where they don't just discard shit or pick up another fucking first aid spray. Fix the goddamn load times between each fucking action. There is so much loading. Pause the game. Loading. Open the map. Loading. Go through a door. Loading! That's another thing. Make all the rooms connected. No more loading between rooms. I know it's kind of how this series is. I know it's like a staple, but I kind of want everything to be real time. Lastly, if you do remaster instead of just, making a new game, bundle File 2 with it. Don't be cocksuckers. Okay, they don't have to do these things. I'm just some guy. But I think those would be good choices to start. My original assessment of Outbreak was pretty spot on. It has potential. Nothing about the game is superb in its own right, but I think the basis itself is a really strong one. I think a smarter choice overall would just be to make another Outbreak. Add some fancy graphics, make the gameplay more modern. You could have a potentially scary-ass Resident Evil game with a really fun online experience. Outbreak is a pretty fun game, albeit flawed. I could have nitpicked some more shit out, but overall, I think the point here is Resident Evil Outbreak's just a really underrated game in the series. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a godsend in comparison to something like 5 or 6 in terms of how a Resident Evil game should feel. Now, the problem is that this just came out when a time when online gaming just really wasn't commonplace. Now think about this, if this would have came out for the PS360, this would have easily been launched into popularity. I would be shocked if it didn't. But sadly, it was the PS2. I don't know anybody that played the PS2 online except for fucking rich people or something. I don't know. Now can I recommend this? If you're a Resident Evil fan, oh yeah. I got mine in complete in box for $10, which is a fucking steal. You can't go wrong with that. For everyone else, you probably won't float your boat any more than any other Resident Evil game won't, so maybe. With Resident Evil 7 coming out quite soon, and Resident Evil 2 Remake in the works, this is definitely not the last time we suckle upon the sweet tit of the Resident Evil series. But until next time, we get to one of those first-person sneaky spook games. The catch is, it's actually fucking good. I was wrong.